Hi, everybody. A very good morning to you from Germany. My name is Mike, and I am from Settling, and I have my co-host Mike as well, or Michael, who's joining us from Nigeria. Today, we will be talking about your roads to permanent residency and citizenship in Germany, and we're going to be touching key areas that you need to pay attention to. First, I would like you to understand that when it comes to becoming a permanent resident in Germany or having a citizenship, there are different pathways to it, and by different pathways, I mean there is no one size that fits all. Of course, there are standard procedures, there are minimum requirements, but then there's hardly any standard timeline. There's also hardly any standard, say, fees, costs that you pay, and lots of things that come in between, which are completely out of your control. My point being, the experience of one person will not necessarily be your experience, and hence the need for you to be fully informed. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this session today. Before I proceed, I'd like my co-host joining us from Nigeria to briefly, yeah, say a few words, and then we hit straight to the main point. Michael.
Yeah, Michael, I was speaking to you earlier, and I mentioned that, it's better to know the pathways than to know an agent. Also,
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
so I can't wait to listen to all that you have to tell us today about the pathways to a permanent residence and or the citizenship in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I mean, there's hardly anything as agent in this case. Like you're way past the agent stage, when you're here. I haven't heard and know if some people use agents, but that would be very interesting if they do that. I know of using a lawyer to do it, which we will also talk about. But in most cases, these are standard procedures that you can pretty much do yourself. Um, I guess the key thing here and the promise we are going to deliver to the people is there is no one size fit all. It's the same law, but then there are different outcomes by state. And what's even more interesting is the fact that um, even though there are slightly different procedures according to different states, at the end of the day, your outcome is pretty much determined by your caseworker, so the person who is handling your case. And it would surprise you to know that. Um, we will give you the checklist that you need to know for your permanent residency and citizenship in Germany. I'm sure you can find this also on the website of your state. If you are living in the state of Berlin, the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, the state of Bayern, and so on, you definitely can find the requirement on the website of the state or the city where you live. These are standard procedures. And then also for the PR or Niederlassungserlaubnis, as it's called in German, it's important to know that it's not exactly the same as citizenship, which is Einbürgerung. Um, there are sequence to it, and you can also actually apply for both of them in parallel. That's 100% possible. And I do actually recommend that if it's applicable for you. We will also touch on that in this conversation. Um, then, what are the key requirements? How long you've stayed, language, contribution, and house, marital status, and a couple other things as well. We will touch on those key points that you need to know. Then definitely some mistakes that people make in the process. We will touch on those. And finally, the rights that you have. This is really important. And I feel for me, this would be like the highlight of the conversation today. The rights that you have, especially when you apply for your citizenship in Germany. Most people, A, maybe don't know the rights that they have, or B, they know it, but they do not exercise it for whatever reason. But before I proceed, Michael, I believe you'll be doing the questioning and I will be doing the answering so that we will touch on all necessary points that are essential for people who are here in Germany as well as those who plan to come to Germany so that from day one, they already know how they can prepare their mind towards becoming a permanent resident or citizen in Germany.
Yeah, Michael. So if I want to get my permanent resident permit in Germany, what are the routes? What are the requirements, the documents needed for this to happen?
Good. So I guess here I will just mention the checklist. And by the way, this podcast is brought to you by Settling. Settling is the platform behind what we do every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. West African time. Sadly, is the platform which we are developing to make moving abroad, navigating the migration space, more especially to study and work abroad, to make it easy. But certainly, you can find the information about how you can study or work abroad, how you can settle in Germany and other European countries, and definitely what we're talking about today. You find relevant articles on there. And then you can ask people questions when you do not understand what you're reading. So, back to the checklist for the permanent residents in Germany. Say at the federal level, so to speak, um, the key requirements are the duration, like how long you've lived in Germany varies, but it's required that you've lived at least, say, 5 years in Germany. Um, and then there's also the period that you have been working and making contribution. Remember, last week we talked about tax payments in Germany, right? So that you are making your statutory contribution as a worker in Germany. So this should be done for at least 60 months, I believe. So that is how many years is that? 60 divided by 12. Yeah, somebody should do the math. Anyways, for around 60 months for sure that you're making this statutory contribution. So, and what this means is yes, your source of income is secured. You will not be a liability to the state as soon as you become a permanent resident. And that, of course, you are making contribution, you're paying your taxes. So, that one essentially. And I think before I know that you need A1 or A2. I've seen people who got a PR with A1, others with A2. But if you check the requirements, you may see B2 as the standard requirement for it. Maybe it has changed recently because, again, Germany did their elections last year, and that came with a lot of changes to, the pathway to becoming a permanent resident and German citizen. So the regulations are now, or the rules, or the requirements are now a bit tighter than before. So probably that's why they say B1 now. And definitely no serious criminal offense because you will provide a police report to show that you do not have any criminal offense. Um, Key documents which are needed are obviously your passports of your country where you come from, since you don't have a German passport. Then what's your current residence status? It could be just normal residence, normal limited residence, or it could be a blue card that you have, or something else. Um, Most likely not student residence because you have to have been working for a certain number of years before you can, yeah, get the permanent residency. Then what else again is needed? Then you also have accommodation. There is your rental contract. That is really, really important that you have a rental contract. Then you have your payment slips. Obviously, they will ask for your payment slip. Usually, the last 3 months, they will ask for your payment slip. Proof of health insurance that you are sufficiently covered. And then, as I mentioned before, the German language certificate. I've been hearing B1 recently. So I would just say go for B1, right? Some people get it with A2 German. I know this, but if you can get B2, then it just sorry B1, then it just makes life a lot easier for you. Um, it's really straightforward. There's no stress with a permanent residency, especially as long as you have a paying job. You've been working for the last 3 to 5 years. Then you already have all these other requirements because if you're working, you're earning, you're paying the tax, and you obviously are paying your rents. Yeah, so these are the these are the key requirements. So 5 years, you'll be working up to 5 years, so paying your taxes within this period, um, sufficient health insurance, rental contract, your pay slips, B1 German, and obviously your passport. And you can pretty much just fill the document online and wait for an appointment. It goes really easily.
Okay, that's very good. We've heard stories of people who travel abroad,
Yeah,
and after staying for some time, they call back home to ask friends and family to help them with police report. Is
yeah.
it possible for you to have these documents, they like include the police report before you travel? or at what point should you begin to like put these documents together? Really?
About the police report, so I mean, the police report has to be it has to be recent, right? If you bring the police report from 2 years ago for a case that you're applying for now, it's not really valid, right? So maybe that's why they have to go back and ask for the most recent one. That even if they came with one, it wouldn't matter anyways because what has happened between then. But what I do know is that what happens is background check, which may include police report. I haven't seen a case, at least not in Germany, where someone had to go get a police report from outside of Germany and bring here. Maybe it happens, but I haven't seen. But what I do know is the background check, which is done. So when you are applying for to become a German citizen, especially, they do a background check of where you come from. In my case, this was done. I have some of my friends from St. Francis that they literally went to their homes. My friends like Oche, Audu, and a couple other guys. They literally went to their home because I put them in the form that these are my classmates from secondary schools, from primary schools. So they went to their homes to confirm. Do you know Michael? Michael says you went to school together. So background checks like this are definitely done. Um, but about police report, the police report that you need, or what I know is police report that is done here in Germany. Yeah, and it has to be recent. I think maybe not more than they always ask for the most recent police report. I'm not sure how long it should be, but not in years. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Talking about the background checks, you mean they went as far as going to meet those people that you put in for your as referee for the background checks?
Yeah. So I guess maybe now we're talking about background checks. We can touch on the requirement or the checklist for citizenship in Germany because I know this is
Yeah.
where it comes in heavily. So one thing to note is before now, I think some years ago in the previous German government, they did the fast track citizenship routes that actually you could even become a German citizen after 3 years of living and working, of lawfully living and working in Germany. They call it the exceptional integration or the fast track route. But this was
Sorry, please,
abgeschafft.
Michael, please, if I may cut in,
Please.
I just heard you mention 3 years of
Yeah.
living and working in Germany for the citizenship.
So there was a time this was brought into law a couple of years ago. Yes. Maybe from 2023 or 2023, 2024 or so. But as soon as the new German government came in, this was revoked. So now it went back to the standard 5 years. Actually,
Oh,
before then, it's 6 years. Um, but again, this is where I had mentioned that there are also a lot of things that come in between, right? So there's the minimum duration, but then that minimum duration is determined by what you're doing at that time, your status, right? So the minimum duration could be 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, and so on. And now it depends on your status. For example, um, minimum duration of 5 years would be, or rather, before now, minimum duration of 5 years or 6 years would be that you studied in Germany, that you have a degree certificate in Germany or from a German university. That's when this 5 years minimum duration would now apply to you, for example. Otherwise, or you've been working for X number of years in Germany. So when they say minimum duration, it does not necessarily apply to everybody. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can't hear you.
yes, please. I was muted.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm saying when you hear minimum duration, this is also why I said there's no one size that fits all.
Yeah,
When you
I
hear
get.
minimum duration, then there are also other things between. So there's
I
like
understand.
minimum duration, and then you have is it C1 or B2 German that you have, or you have a German university degree, or you've been working for X number of years, or you're married to whoever. So these things also come in between, and that's why each person needs to check what applies.
If I may add, I think I also understand that even you may have stayed for 5 years or thereabout, But again, if your source of income is not strong enough, you might not also get the approval and source like that.
That's true. And then plus, if you may have lived there for 5 years, but you've not fully integrated, it does not make any sense to become a German citizen because being a German citizen means you fulfilled some fundamental requirement and essentially are going to become German. So you should be able to speak the language, right? You should understand the culture. You should have done the integration course. And there are certain activities which you do that already fulfill these requirements. If you had studied in a German university in German, you obviously have passed the language requirements and you most likely already have done the integration course. So again, these are all the waves that come in between. So that's why you cannot just have one checklist that you will fit everybody. And by the way, guys, if you're watching this from wherever, we see some comments already coming in. Thank you so much for the comment. Um, yeah, feel free to ask your question, whatever you have regarding this topic, and we can touch on it. If you're watching us from LinkedIn, YouTube, uh, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Good. So this is why I mentioned again the need for each person to check it. And why I am emphasizing on this is because if you would know this upfront, then as soon as you're meeting that minimum requirement, you could already apply straight away. You understand? Because if you don't know this, you could not really plan yourself accordingly. And then maybe there's someone who wants to get it in X number of years. And then if you know what you need, then you can already prepare for those things ahead. Like maybe learn the language, like maybe study in German, or like maybe do a volunteer program that would waive the integration requirement. So there are lots of these things here and there which people need to pay attention to.
Okay, so
Um,
Michael, now, sorry if I may cut it to, for the different ways or the different routes, I understand from my own finding that the EU Blue Card is one of the fastest and easiest way to get your citizenship and also the permanent resident permit. Can you
yep.
shed more light on this?
Um, so the EU Blue Card, the key requirement is your type of job and then how much you're earning. The last time I checked, of course, you have to be working within the STEM field, so science, technology, engineering, and math, because these are like areas which shortage of, um, say, laborers or skilled personnel. And then I think the minimum earning is around 45K or so, 45,000 euros. Sometimes I've heard 43,000, 45 or 50K, but around this range that you're earning per year. So with this, you qualify for the EU Blue Card. And I want to mention that it's important that people pay attention to this because especially those people who studied here and then got a job. So when you study and then you come after your studies, you now get the 18-month um, visa. It's not EU Blue Card. But then as soon as you start working, and if you are working within the areas of the that you qualify to get the EU Blue Card, then you should go for the EU Blue Card, right? Um, but I also have to mention that it doesn't come with any. So far from my experience, I had it before. I mean, I even so my mine was EU permanent residence, so it's like can reside anywhere in the EU permanently. And funny thing is, I just went to renew my residence back then, and then because of where I was working, how much I was earning, I just got the EU Blue Card, right? So it comes to you most likely automatically once you go to renew it. But the other thing there is it is always attached to your current employer. So that means when you switch job, if you lose your job, it has to be reissued, right? Um, so it does not really. The only advantage it comes with for you, as far as I know, is that yeah, it's like a bit of a higher status and stuff, and then you can easily work in other EU countries without needing a work permit because that's the whole essence, right? Um, but then it has this other side that it is always tied to your current employer. So if you can get the normal residence, then it wouldn't matter if you switch employer, if you lose your job, then you don't lose that status. Yep. So,
Yeah, that's fine. Over to you, please.
okay. So then, what I would also like to mention here is the fact that you can actually apply for your permanent residence and your citizenship at the same time. And I do recommend this. I do recommend this. Why? Because I've had cases whereby someone, you already fulfill the requirement for the citizenship, which automatically means you already fulfill the requirement for permanent residence, right? And then they just applied for the citizenship and did not apply for the PR. The danger with that is that there is no guarantee when the citizenship will come out. um, Lately, especially in the state of Berlin, it's been fully digitalized or almost fully digitalized, and it goes really fast, at least relatively to, you know, the past. But then um, again, the time you will get it really depends on who's working on your case. Some people get it in a few months, others a few years, others really long time. And I'll tell some stories of a couple of people that I've been in contact with. So once you meet the requirement, I do encourage you to apply first for the PR and then the citizenship. And again, like, as I mentioned, you can apply for both in parallel. One does not affect the other, at least none that I've seen. So what this means is you have at least your PR at hand, and if the citizenship is taking long for whatever reason, then you don't have to worry about going to renew your your residence after, I don't know, X number of years. And then one thing which is also important to note is that your PR is always attached to your passport. So the passport which you have. So if you don't have a German citizenship yet, the PR which you have is always attached to your passport. So let's say you're Nigerian and your Nigerian passport is going to expire on in 2035 or 2030, for example. Your PR does not necessarily expire, but the card itself will expire at that time because it is tied to your
Passport.
passport. So all you just do is once you renew your passport, then you go get another card, basically, right? So it's just transferred. So you're not like reapplying for PR. The PR does not expire; it's permanent, as it says, except it can be revoked in the case that you do something
Oh,
really
I
bad.
think if I may say, when your passport expires, the PR is kind of suspended, or more or less.
No, it's not suspended; just the card is now invalid, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a date on the card. The card itself is now invalid. So when you get a new passport, you book an appointment, and then it's not the new passport information is reprinted on a new card, so to speak. So it's
Okay.
not
So,
invalid, it's just, yeah, it's not suspended, it's just invalid for that moment because, yeah.
oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, if a quick one, please. Let me say, what if I am sponsored by an organization to come and study in Germany?
Yeah.
Can I pursue permanent resident?
Yeah, definitely.
Or
So,
do I need the approval of the organization that is sponsoring me to Germany? How does this work?
yeah, that's a good one because the whole thing about sponsorship, work sponsorship, and stuff, as it is in the UK, Canada, or wherever, it's not really the case in Germany. Um, there is no such thing as job sponsorship. You get a job, you get a job. That's it. So, to the best of my knowledge, your employer does not necessarily have to sponsor you in any way.
And,
Oh,
sorry, please. I'm talking about the study route. Let me say, if I was sponsored by an organization to come study in Germany,
okay.
and maybe for a period of 4 years, if I want to pursue maybe resigning with the organization that sponsored me or something, can I pursue my? Do I need some level of approval or consent or something from the organization that
Well,
sponsored me to Germany before I can pursue a permanent resident permit?
so practically speaking, the two are not necessarily connected, right?
Okay.
Because when you have a sponsor for anything, at least in the sense of living in another country, really what the sponsor is doing is being your being financially responsible for you. In the case
Yeah.
of studies, very specifically, what the sponsor is essentially doing is they are the ones funding your studies, right? And that really doesn't have anything to do with you becoming a permanent resident or a citizen. I don't think you need their permission. So you are studying, they are sponsoring your studies. The question is, what do you want to do after your studies? Do you want to stay in Germany, or are you going to go back to your home country? If you decide to stay in Germany, that means after your studies, then you get a job, right? And if you get a job, you're working, and then you meet the requirement for the PR or citizenship. So you do not necessarily need any kind of permission from them. Does this make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. So the second aspect of my question is this: if I get a job offer in Germany, and then my employer get all the work permit papers for me, and then I travel to Germany. What
Yeah.
if I lose my employment with the employer?
Yeah.
Does this mean I would have to return back to my home country, or is there any kind of soft landing for such a kind of situation where I can still continue
Definitely.
to?
Yeah. So a couple of things here. It depends on how long you've been working. So if you've been working for at least 12 months and you've been making contribution to the unemployment insurance, so that means when you lose your job after at least 12 months, you qualify for unemployment benefits. So that's one. So that would be like your safety net, which you can look forward to. And then when you lose your job, it's not automatic go back home. No. What's the duration of your residence? That's really what matters. So you are only required to leave the country when you don't have a legal status anymore, right? So, and even at that, there are also grace period, like when if you've applied for renewal of your residence permit. So losing your job does not automatically mean go back home. No. So you come in and you start working. Most times people get 3, 4 years of residence. If you're lucky, maybe 5 years, depending on the type of job that you get. So if you would lose your job at some point, you most likely still have maybe a year or two of your residence or more. You never know, right? And then you can apply for another job within this period. And you will also, if you've been contributing at least up to 12 months into the unemployment scheme, then you will get unemployment benefit with and support to find another job. So it's not go home automatically for you. Go home now comes in if you you've exhausted the unemployment benefits, you still haven't found a job, and then your residency has also expired, and you still haven't found a job because you would have to go renew it. And when you go to renew it, part of the requirement is what are you doing? What's your current engagement? It's either you're studying, you're working, or you're doing something legally engaging. So if you're not doing any of these, then that's when the conversation about leaving the country comes in.
Okay, Mike. So I think we are really out of time. We have just about 2 minutes left. Maybe in our subsequent episodes, we may have to talk about why we are beginning to witness the tightening of the border policies and immigration policies in the
Yeah,
West and even in America. Because you just mentioned that there was an election, and the new leader came in and may tighten things up a little bit, and that is happening also in the UK. That's happening in USA, and majorly in major parts of the West. So maybe in our subsequent meetings we can touch more on that.
definitely. I find it interesting in the sense that there are some side or some part of the government that wants to fasten or speed up the integration process for foreigners, whereas there are others that would rather take it a bit slower. And I think both sides there have their points at the end of the day. But one fact that we can all agree on is that Germany needs more and more skilled workers. Germany needs more and more foreign power. Germany needs more and more migrants in the country because the aging population is heavily increasing. The birth rate is slowing down. So, uh, I mean, you could hardly picture a future without foreigners in Germany. So, whatever the case is, I can imagine that it's supposed to be for the benefit or for the best interest of both parties. Not everyone would agree with this, but I feel like everyone is fighting for themselves, right? But I think foreigners should understand that they have the upper hand here because they are the ones that are needed. I
You,
guess
you
this is
know,
going to another
you
conversation.
know, when Paul was mentioned here, we once had Paul here.
Yeah,
Yeah, when he mentioned, yes, Germany wants people to come. Germany recognizes your talent, but
yeah,
talent is not enough. The structure of the policy and the
definitely.
administrative frameworks has to
Yeah,
be followed, complied with. The
yeah.
talent is not enough.
That's true. So I guess
Yeah,
my point is, do not panic. Know that you have the upper hand. That's the fact. There's the structure, there are the requirements, and it's like an agreement, right? We need you, you need me. Now, how do we settle and come together? Because
yeah,
both parties are getting something from the other, and
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
they're just negotiating for what's going to
yeah,
work best for them. The
yeah,
country wants what's going to work best for them. Putting themselves first, which I think is just a natural thing that anyone would do. And then you, who is coming in with all the support which the country needs, you also have to see that it pays you well. Otherwise, then you can choose another destination, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I know it's a very tough topic. We will touch on that subsequently. But for now, bottom line is there is no one size that fits all. And then you should already start preparing for this because many people are overqualified to become permanent resident or citizen, but for whatever reason, they haven't attained it. And then sadly, some people who even apply right on time, provide all the necessary documents, go through the process, they still don't get it in time. It's still in process for whatever reason. And this is why I do recommend that in order not to get stressed at that stage, just be sure to get your PR as soon as you're due for it and then apply for your citizenship as well. So, guys, if you have found this interesting, if you found this useful, and if you thought, okay, we said something which is not correct, please leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts. If there's someone that needs to watch this, please do share it with them. And yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in from the different platforms. We hope to see you around soon again. Michael, any final words from you?
yeah. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and see you again next Saturday. Bye for now.
All right. Cheers, guys.